What's good, sports fans? This is your guy, Tone DeShields II from Chalk It Up Sports Philly, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. A few things I want to get to. You know, the Philadelphia sports market is really going through a turbulent time because of the simple fact that the Philadelphia Eagles are still trying to figure out if Jalen Hurts is their future. And then on top of that, Daryl Morey, the GM for the Philadelphia 76ers, has been trying to move Ben Simmons all season, but he says he's not going to do it for pennies on the dollar. Understandably so. But when you think about the landscape of things, I'll have a question for you guys. Who has the toughest situation? Who has the toughest job right now for these GMs? Is it Howie Roseman trying to figure out the future with Jalen Hurts and these draft picks and all this cap space he's going to have? Or is it Daryl Morey having to deal with the Ben Simmons situation, trying to make a trade before the trade deadline, which is about 2 to 3 weeks away? You have a superstar in Joel Embiid who's in his prime right now, who hasn't proven to be the most healthy in the long term, but when he's on the court, he gives it everything he's got, and he just put up 50 points in 27 minutes not that long ago. So, I want you guys to chew on that for a moment. Who has the toughest job for the Philadelphia sports teams? Is it Howie Roseman or Daryl Morey? Let's break down some of the nuances of both situations. Now, when it comes to Howie Roseman, right, he has 3 first-round draft picks. He has 10 draft picks in total in this upcoming draft. And the questions are, can Jalen Hurts bring the Philadelphia Eagles to the promised land? Should the Philadelphia Eagles put all their chips with Jalen Hurts and reload this roster with the current assets they have? Or should they leverage all their draft picks, notably their 3 first-round draft picks? Should they leverage those picks to go get a guy like Russell Wilson or a guy like Deshaun Watson, or maybe even a guy like Derek Carr or Jimmy Garoppolo? Obviously, Jimmy Garoppolo and Derek Carr are on the same par as Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson, but those guys have or proved that they were capable of bringing their teams to the playoffs, right? But Howie Roseman is in a conundrum. Should he go all in on Jalen Hurts, or should he leverage everything and bring in a star-studded quarterback? But here's the problem. The roster, in my humble opinion, isn't necessarily ready for a star-studded quarterback like a Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson. Mainly because we have so many holes on defense and some holes on offense, and we were exposed in this past playoffs against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And that's not an easy situation for Howie Roseman because he's a known wheeler and dealer. And then when you compare Howie Roseman to Daryl Morey, another guy who's known as a wheeler and dealer, he made his name with the Houston Rockets getting things done. Regardless, the Ben Simmons situation is very complex because you have a situation where a player has essentially ruined his stock in the NBA, ruined his value, and he isn't intent on increasing that value. He isn't intent on helping the 76ers move him. He believes it's the 76ers' job to figure out a situation for him, not vice versa. And that's a very limited way of looking at the situation. But the main crux of it all is you have a superstar in Joel Embiid who is clearly in his prime, and his health will always be a conversation. Joel Embiid has yet to play a full season of NBA basketball. He missed his first 2 seasons in the NBA with a foot injury. So he already was a late bloomer in the NBA. It took him a while to get his footing. But regardless, Joel Embiid is in his prime, and you have to find a way to move Ben Simmons for someone who can actually help you and not harm your playoff chances. And then the situation becomes even more complex when you think about the situation with Tobias Harris, a guy who hasn't really shown that much growth within the organization from a skill set standpoint and from a reliability standpoint. Yes, he's averaging about 18 points per game this year, but he has struggled to shoot from the three, and he has struggled to really carry this team. And he's getting paid big money as if he's able to carry this team, and that's just not the case right now. So Daryl Morey has to find a way to maneuver Ben Simmons and make his value tremendous. And then he has a chance to package Tobias Harris with that as well. Now, the teams that are linked to Ben Simmons are teams like the Kings, the Pacers, the Blazers, the Pistons, the Timberwolves, the Hawks. 4 of those teams are considered to be NBA purgatory, like the Kings, Timberwolves, uh, Pacers, and Pistons. Maybe even the Blazers as well, because Damian Lillard is hurt right now, and that team really can't get out of their own way. They're trying, but they really can't do it. But overall, Howie Roseman and Daryl Morey both have tough tasks ahead of them. Howie Roseman, what are you going to do with your draft picks? Are you going to be able to stand pat? Are you going to be able to keep the gun in the holster and not pull the trigger on one of these big time trades and leverage all your chips, leverage your entire future on the hope that a veteran quarterback in his 30s like Russell Wilson, or a quarterback who's dealing with a lot of legal issues like Deshaun Watson, to carry you over the top. That's a huge bet. That's a huge risk you're taking, because let's be honest, the Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver core is lackluster outside of Devontae Smith. Quez Watkins has shown flashes, but overall, the wide receiver core is lackluster outside of Devontae Smith. Then you got Dallas Goedert, the tight end, who's still trying to prove that he's elite, but he has moments where he has concentration issues and big drops. Then you have a defense who has so many holes on all three levels, the DBs, the linebackers, and the defensive line, and they've made their money pretty much against lackluster teams. But that's just the reality, though. But whenever they've gone up against elite quarterback play, they've struggled, and guys have had career games. The Daryl Morey, you have a Philadelphia 76ers team who pretty much feasted on non-playoff teams, pretty much started out hot, and then got cold towards a certain part of the season, and now they're starting to get their footing back. Right now, the Sixers are, I believe, the 5th seed in the NBA, so they're very competitive, and Joel Embiid is carrying this team. You got Steph Curry doing this thing, shooting above 40% from the three. You got Tyrese Maxey developing as well. But what's the ceiling for this Philadelphia Sixers team? What's the ceiling for this Philadelphia Eagles team? The bottom line is both GMs have to make a decision on whether or not they're either going to keep Ben Simmons when it comes to Daryl Morey, or move on from Ben Simmons. 9 times out of 10, he's going to get moved. That's a fact, all but certain. And then with Howie Roseman, what are you going to do with Jalen Hurts? He's committed to him for 2022. But how much stock can we put into Howie Roseman's words? If you had to ask me who has the toughest gig, I would most likely say Daryl Morey, because of the complexities of the Ben Simmons situation, his trade market not really being the most sexy. And then you have a guy like Tobias Harris who complicates it as well, because he's not really living up to that contract. But the question is on you guys. Who do you guys believe has the toughest situation? Is it Howie Roseman, or is it Daryl Morey? Daryl Morey is trying to put a lot of things behind him. Howie Roseman has everything in front of him. So you guys be the judge. I'm your humble host, Tone DeShields II from Chalk It Up Sports Philly, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. One love, stay humble, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay hungry.